Welcome back in episode 11 of the Fourth Down Football Show. And boy, we got a great show for you today. Some sucky news in the NFL for Kyle. Daniel Jones tore his ACL, is out for the rest of the season. Just another brutal hit to the Giants season. In the college football side, Melo's USC, they finally fired the Grinch, Alex Grinch there, their defensive coordinator, but it may be too late. The damage is already done at this point. Of course, my Nittany Lions got a huge game coming up against Michigan. And, hey, how about them Cowboys? My Eagles took care of them, even though it was a close game yesterday on Sunday. Great episode coming for you. And we are going to jump right into the college football talk with Melo. Let's get right to it. Hang in there. Watch this full episode. I would appreciate if you left a review. If you subscribe, if you like, all of that. Really appreciate it. Let's jump right into college football with Melo. All right, starting off with a little college football here. Matt and Melo for you for some college football. Melo's celebrating. The Grinch is gone in USC. He's gone. No more to steal Melo's joy.
Yeah, right before the holiday season. This guy's out of here, ironically, but it's like, USC fans are definitely happy, but it's like it shouldn't have taken this long for this to happen. The writing was on the wall 3 weeks ago. It was the writing on the wall after the Pac-12 championship game. It was writing on the wall after losing to Tulane in the Cotton Bowl this past January. It was like there were so many examples of why this head coach, this defensive coordinator, shouldn't have been here anymore, and it took you to almost the final month of the season, of the regular season, pretty much, to say, yep, this is it. No more. It's like, why couldn't this happen months ago or last season? But either way, yeah, we're happy that he's out of here, but it's too late. It's too late now. Season's over.
Yep. He already came in and damage is done at this point. So we'll probably talk about that a little bit more, but couple other games we want to cover, other programs we want to cover here. Oklahoma losing again in Bedlam to Oklahoma State. Texas barely holds on to beat Kansas State. Like I said, talking about Melo and USC a little bit more. We can even a little preview another Big Ten game next week is Michigan comes to take on Penn State, my Penn State Nittany Lions, next Saturday. So, a lot to get into, but do you want to just continue your USC rant at this point? We're already 1 foot in the door.
Yeah, it's like beating a dead horse.
It kind of is.
The defense. What have I said in the last couple of weeks that you haven't heard already? Defense was no good. They gave up 52 points to Washington, which, by the way, I was coming on here for weeks saying that Washington should have been the fourth team in the college football playoff. I'm kind of ready to maybe subtract that statement and give it to Florida State. How does a fifth-ranked team in the nation give up 42 points to USC? Now listen, USC, great offensive team. Caleb Williams was the Heisman Trophy winner until a month ago, but for all this hype that Washington had, and Michael Penix played amazing. I'm not taking anything away from him, played his ass off. It's a good story, but we'll see what happens tomorrow when the rankings come out. But how does the fifth best team in the nation give up that many points to USC? And a lot of them were the same issues that we had. Giving up explosive plays, not keeping the, wide receivers in front of you, bad penalties. It's like this is not the team that people were advertising to be including myself, to be the fourth best team in the college football playoff. But this season's over. They're not playing for anything anymore. And I think you saw that with Caleb Williams when he was crying after the game with his mother. It's like the writing was there, and you realize that, okay, they're not playing for a Pac-12 championship game anymore. And even if you did, it's like, well, what is that going to get you? A New Year's Six bowl that you're going to lose anyways? Or Caleb might not even play in that game because he's going to get ready for the draft. But
yeah,
again, I came on here and said that USC might lose the last, 3 games of the season, and they've already lost to Washington, and they're going to get slaughtered by Oregon this weekend. At least we think. And then UCLA is a rivalry game, and anything can happen. You forget about the record. It's so amazing. We were 6-0. And yes, we played some crappy teams, and we blew them out the first 3 weeks of the season. It really felt like USC was going to make a run here.
It did.
And they were going to get the 4th spot. But then everything changed. The Colorado game, that was the first big eye-opener that changed everything. And then, should have lost to Arizona State, should have lost to Arizona, should have lost to all these teams. And even when they were winning, it was ugly. And every week it kept showing. USC was like the only school in America that could win, but they were going backwards in the AP polling. So they were going backwards, but the writing was on the wall, and everybody predicted. It's like, okay, you can get away with it now, but let's see when you play Notre Dame. Let's see how when you play Washington. Let's see how you look when you play Utah. And USC has not answered the bell. And we thought it was going to be an easy game against Cal, and it took them to stop a 2-point conversion to win that game. And that's honestly, that's luck. That's not, from what I've seen this year, stopping a 2-point conversion to win the game, that's not execution. That's luck, to be honest with you. I hate to be like that, but it is.
Yeah, you're not really wrong. On Washington's side, we see now the second time that they play a good team, first Oregon and now USC, both times ends up in a shootout. I mean, obviously, everybody knows Pac-12 is not about defense at all, but you think you'd have a little bit better defense than this. I think that has to be called into question here a little bit of, all right, sure, they got the offense to keep up with these other teams, but when they play a Michigan, or if they would get into the college football playoff and they play a Michigan, they play Ohio State, they play a Georgia, I mean, what's going to happen to this defense? They're going to get boat raced. I mean, granted, USC has had a pretty electric offense all year, and so has Washington. Michigan and Georgia still have really great offenses as well. Ohio State does too. I think you got to be a little worried if you're a Huskies fan about this defense because, I mean, yeah, you won the 14-7 game against Arizona or Arizona State, whichever one it was. But still, you, in your 2 biggest games this year, you had to win via shootout. A top caliber team like this, if you look at the 4 teams that were in the top 4 for the college football playoff rankings, all of them have outstanding defenses. And then Washington, obviously knocking on the door as of right now. We'll see tomorrow where they land. They're kind of like one of these things is not like the other. Defense is just not exactly part of their game this season. So I think that's somewhere to be worried about if you're a Huskies fan.
Yeah, and you just mentioned that they had to win 2 shootouts to beat some of the best teams, and even the games that they were supposed to win big. You mentioned 15-7 against Arizona State. They had to beat Stanford 42-33 in that game. Arizona 31-24, and their last 3 games of the season are not cupcakes either. They got Utah coming up, and then they play Oregon State, which Oregon State's not a pushover team. They're a top 15 team. And then Washington State, again, rivalry games are weird. Anything can happen. Especially when you got a good Washington team that's on their heels a little bit and looking for a playoff. A rivalry game like Washington State is a bad matchup because they're not playing for anything. They can all they got to do is win and your season's over. So what do they have to lose? So, yeah, I would be concerned if I was a Husky fan. It's not a shoo-in. Now, if you win out and you beat Oregon again and you're undefeated, maybe you get in anyways.
Yeah.
But I think Oregon is clearly the best team in this conference. And I think Duck fans are very surprised that it took this long for everybody to realize it. Because first everybody thought it was USC, and then everybody thought it was Washington. Now maybe it is Oregon. And I think the world is starting to realize that now, especially in Pac-12 land out west where I am.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see when these two teams pretty well inevitably match up again in the Pac-12 championship. It sure seems like the writing is on the wall for those two teams to be playing again. I guess it's possible Utah could still sneak in there, maybe an Oregon State. But it sure seems like it's going to be Washington and Oregon at this point. To see what a championship rematch would look like there, if Oregon can turn things around and sort of flip the script from the last time they matched up. And if they both maintain their records at this point and they both go undefeated and into the championship game and Oregon wins, there's a case that Oregon gets in over Washington, even though Washington was still undefeated in the regular season. I think that Oregon, depending on how the victory is, and Pac-12 champions, might be enough to get them over Washington. But we'll see. Never know how the committee judges things, as we've seen at this point. But moving on then, you wanted to talk about Oklahoma, because Melo loves taking a dump on Oklahoma. Because they lost to Oklahoma State it was a close game, a rivalry game, but still, they lost in a game that they shouldn't have lost. You watched this game, what would you take away from it?
Same old story with Oklahoma. They get so close, and they just fall flat on their faces. Everybody was, like I said, taking a dump on Lincoln Riley when he came over here and, telling us, it's not all sunshine and roses, there's stuff that you don't know about and you're going to find out. And we did, but we also are finding out that Oklahoma's not that great of a program either. They are, believe me. They have great tradition. They're always good mostly every year. I'm not saying, it's not a desirable place to be, but just these Oklahoma fans just put themselves on this pedestal where, they think they've won the national championship every year, and they haven't. They always have these hiccup games. They had it, they beat Texas, great. But then, look, they've had hiccups against Oklahoma State, and I forget who they lost to last week. But just can't finish. Can't finish. And I've said this 1,000 times, and I just said it 5 minutes ago. These rivalry games are weird. Stuff happens. And Oklahoma outmatched. To me, they were outmatched, and they got outplayed. And what looked like a clear path to the college football playoff 3 weeks ago, it's no longer the case. They're done.
Yeah, I mean, the case for them to make the Big 12 championship has holes in. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it has holes in at this point. Being a two-loss team, you put yourself in that Kansas State category right there that, depending how BYU ends their season, BYU could sneak in there. So Oregon, yeah, disappointing to this point, and I'm going to do a quick schedule check for them because I'm interested to see how they close out their season with West Virginia, then BYU, and then closing it out at TCU. So those are all three. Those aren't like when you see your schedule, those are not joke football programs. Those are, hey, they have been legit football programs recently in the past 10, 15 years. West Virginia pushing it a little bit, but
you should win those games.
They've had their moments. You should win those games, but those are games where they're legit Big 12 opponents for you. There's a chance that you can lose those games. So this isn't when you started your season versus like SMU or something. So I think there's a chance that Oklahoma still loses one of these games this season. I don't feel it's weird to say that. But taking a look at the Big 12 standings then, if you give me a second, when you look, it's Texas and it's Oklahoma up there, but still there's teams lurking. Texas and Oklahoma. It's Texas and then Oklahoma State, Kansas, and then Oklahoma. So right now, Oklahoma's not in the Big 12 championship game. I mean, it's their own fault. They have themselves to blame, and that's pretty much it. Um, the Big 12 shaped out to be a bit of a better conference than we all thought to start the season. I think they were, well, them and the ACC were sort of battling it out for the worst conference coming into the season, but the Big 12's definitely, I think, picked up third place. Pac-12, Big 10, SEC. Those are the top three. So fourth place, fourth best division. But I think it's been a lot more competitive than we thought. In Texas, your hopes are still alive for
Barely.
the playoff. Barely, because you have a loss, and most of these teams that are still competing do not. But there is a chance that you can still make it in, I guess. Got anything else on Oklahoma? Or are you're pretty good with them now?
I'm pretty good with them now. They vomited on themselves again this season. So
One more game we wanted to talk about, right?
yeah, this is your team.
Yeah. My team took care of business, first of all, against Maryland. And, oh, come on now. That deserves more than a yay. I mean, Maryland's not a joke of a program. They have a good, very good quarterback. Tua's younger brother there. Tua Leah, I believe, is his name. I think so. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Some people say he's the second best quarterback in the Big Ten this year. But Penn State handles their business, and I liked what we saw from Penn State on Saturday. Their offense looked legit. It looked ready, and we weren't afraid to take some of the deep shots this week as we were in the past. We were a little less conservative with the play call, which is I actually like that because history of Penn State, we just hand the ball up the middle. It's a running back dive every single play. But I like that. Building a little momentum heading into Michigan this week. And listen, if we want to play spoiler and we want any chance to be in the Big Ten championship and any chance to have a shot at the college football playoff this year, you have to win this game. And let's be honest, it hasn't happened in the past. It has not happened recently. We haven't beat Michigan recently. They've had our number. They had Ohio State's number too. But guess what? Ohio State has had our number too. So it just hasn't been. We've been the third fiddle for a little while there in the Big Ten. But I don't expect to win, but I don't expect to get blown out. At least, I mean, two great defenses going at it. That's for sure. Penn State's defense has been maybe overshadowed is the right word by Ohio State's and Michigan's this year because they both have been dominant. But Penn State's right there with them. Thank goodness we're getting this game at Beaver Stadium because that helps our chances out a little bit at least. One of the best atmospheres in college football. But like I said, this is a make it or break it game for your whole season right here. This is what it comes down to because these blowouts versus Maryland versus UMass versus all these teams, they don't matter if you can't beat Michigan and you can't beat Ohio State. So that's my little Penn State take here. What do you got?
Yeah, and even if you beat Michigan this weekend and you end up not getting in the college football playoff, it's like at least change the narrative. Because the Penn State narrative for all these years, it's been we go 10-2, we beat up on all these teams, and then our two losses are against Michigan and Ohio State. I'm sure you're a Penn State fan. I'm sure you're tired of hearing that from everybody.
Yeah.
You just want to change the narrative and feel good about your program. You don't have to beat Ohio State and Michigan every year. I'm sure at this point it's like, hey, if I can beat Michigan this weekend, great. That's perfect. It's a good year. But just changing the narrative. And, I doubt it because Michigan looked really good this past weekend, but maybe the cheating scandal, this thing that's going on, maybe psychic a little bit. Maybe it'll carry over. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they'll be focusing too much on what's going on and not on the game Saturday. But Michigan's still a really good team, and it's a tall task. But yeah, there's no reason why you should get blown out. But if you could just keep it close, you got a chance, and it helps that you're home.
Yes. I mean, I'm not hoping for a close game. I'm hoping for a win. But a close game would be second best thing, I guess, I can ask for. Can't be too picky now as a team that hasn't won very much recently. So it does suck being in the division, one of the last conferences to have divisions where we are stuck in the same division as Ohio State and Michigan. But that's not really going to get any better, even though we do get rid of divisions next year, because we're just welcoming a whole bunch of great talent in Oregon, Washington, and USC. So, yeah, exactly. Yeah, hi. So we'll be playing you guys next year. And listen, great. We don't have to – I think we don't play Ohio State or we don't play Michigan next year. We don't play one of them next year for the first time in forever. And it's because we're welcoming these other great teams. So it's not like we brought in School of the Mines or Arizona Tech. So we still got great talent that we're bringing in to play anyway. So I don't it's not like we're getting any extra cupcake games, but it's good to have more competition, I think, overall. But
Definitely.
I think that's going to, unless you got anything else you want to add on here, that's going to be a wrap.
No, that's it. I'm very excited. We're getting to the, rivalry week is in a couple more weeks, and then championship week, and then we're going to find out who these four teams are. And as somebody that's going to be at the Rose Bowl game January 1st, I'm very interested. I want to see. I was sick and tired of seeing Utah the first 2 years. I want to see somebody else. And it'll be extra special because it's a playoff game, and I've never been to one of these, and it's to go to the national championship. So you're going to get two of the best teams in the country. And we welcome you to Pasadena, whoever that is.
Well, chances are you'll probably see either Michigan or Ohio State.
Yeah, probably.
Likely.
Whoever wins the Michigan-Ohio State game versus Florida State, something like that.
Yeah.
Or Georgia.
Yep.
Something like that.
Yeah, so you'll get a good game either way. I mean, obviously, with it being a playoff game, you'll get a good game. But
I hope we do.
Well, yeah, you should. You're not hoping for TCU, Michigan.
No,
or TCU,
no.
TCU, Georgia. I mean,
yes, not that. We don't need that again.
Yeah, that'd be a little boring. But yeah, it's gonna do it for our college football coverage here. So we're gonna jump over to the NFL side now with Kyle. So thank you, Melo, for hopping on here. And yeah, NFL, here we come. And now we're going to throw it over to the NFL side. I'm joined by Kyle, a Giants fan. Tough time for him. This guy, Daniel Jones, going down with the ACL injury for the rest of the year. But we can get into that a little bit. I mean, tough break for the Giants there. I'll ask you for your thoughts in a second, but just to run down what we're going to be covering here. Josh Dobbs joins the Vikings and immediately leads them to a nice little game-winning drive, nice little game-winning touchdown pass against the Falcons. Of course, my Eagles beat the Cowboys, so we got to get into that. Texans, nice little comeback win, and C.J. Stroud, nice little game-winning drive for him. He's looking like the best rookie quarterback so far. Texans actually not looking like a bad team at all. We'll see how far we get into Bills Cincinnati. The whole AFC North is currently in the playoffs as we sit, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, so you're Giants, so we'll take a quick second on them. Daniel Jones ACL injury, tough.
Yeah, I mean, I feel for the guy. I really do, because as much shit that I give him every single week, I do. And I'm not gonna shy away from it. I don't think he's the guy, but that doesn't mean that I'm happy that he's out. You know what I mean? He is by far the best option that we have right now. I still think he's a hell of a gamer. I think he goes out every week and he does what he can do, but I just, after all this time, I don't think he's the fit. But at the same time, I want him to get the opportunity into a system that I think will work better for him and for the Giants system is just not good for him unless he's just a backup, a $40 million backup. Um, the Giants have not put the weapons around him that he needs to succeed.
That's the main thing.
Yeah, the Giants have not helped out their quarterback that they took with the sixth overall pick. I understand that. I get it. So yes, I feel for the guy. I hope that he comes back quicker, better than ever. You know, but what are you gonna do? I mean, this Giants season was over before it even started. Um, yeah, I mean, get some help on the O line because guess what? Now you got Taylor and you have Jones out, and now you're relying on Tommy DeVito to win you some football games here. When I mean, who else are you gonna throw out there at this point? You could throw anybody out there. I mean, Carson Wentz is available. Why not, right? Um, I don't know,
Complete his
but yeah,
NFC East tour.
yeah, exactly. But
He's got 2 teams down.
yeah. So at the end of the day, I hope he comes back quicker and better than ever. I feel for the guy. I really, really do. Um, you know,
It's a tough break, like you said, and I don't know that he's gotten a fair shake with the Giants yet because he hasn't had any good weapons really. He hasn't got a good offensive line, so it's been a tough first couple years of his career and a lot of pressure on him being in New York, being the 6th overall pick when people thought maybe he would be late first round pick. So a lot of expectations placed on him, and you felt like at times last year you saw a lot that you liked, but then
yeah,
a lot of things you didn't like as well. So there was always room for improvement, but I agree. You always felt that if he was in a different team surrounded by better weapons, that he would have had a better opportunity. But
yeah,
we both knew that. So switching over, like we said, wanted to talk a little bit about who did I even say we were going to lead off with?
I think.
Yes, Josh Dobbs. What an incredible story. He had a nice little run with the Cardinals there this season when he was filling in for Kyler, and then traded from the Cardinals to the Vikings with of course Kirk Cousins going down for the season with the ACL. ACL. Or Achilles, sorry.
Yeah.
And he fills in as, like you said, doesn't even know the name of half of his offensive linemen. He's over there on the sideline before the game practicing his cadence with them because he was not expecting to be traded and then be put into a starting spot right away because their plan was not for him to start. Of course, their other quarterback getting injured in the game, and he comes in and he leads them on a game-winning drive, throws the game-winning touchdown with like 20-something seconds left in the game. And what a great story for a guy who we thought, especially when he was in Pittsburgh, deemed to be a backup the rest of his career, and then got a little bit of a shot in Tennessee, not really anything that made you think he was going to be a starter anywhere. And now he's proven that he's not a bad backup. Like, filling in for Kyler, he was doing really great. Of course, their offense is a little more quarterback run heavy with Kyler, obviously, but he was like top 5 in the league in quarterback rushing yards so far this season. So he's shown that he can be a gamer, and hopefully he can get, for his sake, hopefully he can get paid a nice little backup quarterback salary. I'm not saying Daniel Jones money, but something appropriate for a backup quarterback, whether that is in Minnesota or somewhere else. I mean, I could definitely see him being like a Teddy Bridgewater, maybe a little lesser version of Jameis Winston, but like a guy who's going to bounce around team to team and be a good backup. And when he does come in, you're not like, oh, this game is automatically over. No offense, but kind of like the Giants right now with Tommy DeVito.
Yeah, no, for sure, yeah.
Happy for Josh Dobbs, though, for sure, because he's getting his chances and he is making the most of them this season.
Oh yeah, Yeah, he definitely is. And I think, with Kirk going down, I think he got himself into a pretty good situation up there in Minnesota. I mean, you got the weapons around him. I understand Jefferson's out right now, but you still got Addison over there. I saw one of their other wide receivers. I'm not too, well known on the Vikings here, but you got Hawkinson there and Akers in the backfield. This team is not. It's not anything great, the Vikings, but I mean they got weapons, and Josh
Definitely.
Dobbs made the most out of it. It was a very, very cool thing to see Josh Dobbs kind of take over that game-winning drive. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy for him. I think what he was doing in Arizona shocked a lot of people because a lot of people just wrote off Josh Dobbs right away, before he could really get a absolute 100% real shot. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's cool for him. I think he's in a good situation right now with Minnesota. And yeah, like you said, I hope that he can get his little payday that quite honestly he deserves.
I think I think he's going to be the next Jacoby Brissett, a guy who I was searching for guys earlier, but I think Jacoby Brissett might be the best comparison. A guy who floats around team to team. Brissett's been with so many like Patriots, Colts, Browns. I think he was at Washington. So many teams throughout his career, and it's like you don't feel the game's over when he comes in, though, and that's the most important thing for a backup because I know that feeling. I had Wash Joe Flacco as my backup at one point in Philly. I mean, lots of names that you're not feeling too comfortable with, but I feel like Josh Dobbs at this point is a guy that you can count on to at least be an X factor. Like, I mean, sure, he's not a Patrick Mahomes, obviously. He's not a Justin Herbert. He's not even like a Kirk Cousins, a Dak Prescott. But he is better than a lot of other backups in the leagues, and I think that he's gonna be one of the best backups in the league for a time to come, the rest of his career. I mean, I'm sure some desperate team, will probably give him a shot to battle a rookie quarterback for the starting spot, but with the way people draft quarterbacks now, that's more of just a in name, just to create a little competition, start a little fire for the rookie. But I think that he is gonna be. I think he's got his spot in the league is definitely solidified after this season because it was in doubt coming out of Tennessee. Because I
Yeah.
think they just either they cut him or something because Cleveland picked him up and then I don't think he was either on their practice squad or they cut him or something and then went to Arizona. So he's definitely solidified himself in this league, making a nice little run and a nice little name for himself. Um, Another quarterback, a little quarterback heavy show here, but that's all right. It's a quarterback league. Um, C.J. Stroud has impressed this season, and he has been the best rookie quarterback without a doubt this season. And he's been having one of the better seasons a rookie quarterback has had in a long time. So there was a lot of people who thought he was. People said he was the number 2 overall pick, but people also thought he had a bit of a low ceiling because obviously at Ohio State you're playing with the best of the best of offensive weapons in the country in college football, and then when you get drafted high, it's obviously not a good situation. So there was not a lot of high expectations for him necessarily. I think there's a lot of comps to like Jared Goff, like that could be like his ceiling. Just a guy who's able to get the ball there on time and on target, not necessarily a threat to do anything exciting, but just a good, solid quarterback in the league. And at this point, like in his first however many games that we are in, 9, he's been that and even more. Like 470 yards yesterday, the composure to lead the Texans on a game-winning drive, throw the game-winning touchdown with like 46 seconds left in the game. I actually watched the ending of that game. So yeah, I've been very impressed by the Texans and C.J. Stroud this season. Granted, against the Buccaneers defense, whatever that's worth, not the best defense in the league, but still, game-winning drive by rookie, very impressive. What do you got on our guy C.J. Stroud?
I was high on him coming into the season. Obviously, I was very excited to see what he could do. Um, but all I was looking for was flashes. I wasn't looking for anything exciting because no matter if you're a number one pick, no matter if you're a number two pick, 15, 30, whatever the hell it is, um, going into a Texas organization like this in Houston, that's tough. Because you and I have known the Texans as nothing but a laughing stock, an absolute joke of the league year after year. Um, and they've never had like their guy a quarterback. They've never had a for sure solidified quarterback that they can go into the season with and say, you know what, this is our guy.
Yo, I mean, they had Deshaun Watson, and then he's like, "No, I want out of here." So,
Yes, I understand they had Watson, but even like, you know, Watson is what he was, and but like I don't know. I mean, I never got the feeling that he would be the guy down there, just because of all the extra stuff that comes along with him.
mm,
Um, but Shroud has just taken every opportunity he has gotten, and he's taken the most of it. It's exactly what he's been doing through these 8, 9 weeks, wherever the hell we're at right now. Um, he's impressing everybody, and I think it's such a cool thing to see for this Texans team, who, like I said, has been the laughing stock of the league for years. Stroud's doing this with no weapons around him, basically. Just a bare bones team that was slapped together because, hey, you got to put an NFL team together. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think this Texans team has a very bright future with Stroud at quarterback. I think they need to draft correctly, and I think they need to take advantage of all the draft picks that they do get. And hey, who knows? Maybe there'll be some winning football down there in Houston.
I don't think that's far off of their future at all. It started with making the right hire at coach, and they finally did that. I mean, Bill O'Brien was a bit of a mess there, especially with him as your GM too, trading away J.J. Watt, or trading, or I forget how that was, if he traded him or if he signed there. I think he traded, but trading away DeAndre Hopkins for a bag of chips from the Cardinals. I mean, it was a joke there. But they got D'Amico Ryans, obviously former player, and he was the defensive coordinator for the Niners out in San Francisco, and he looks like the right hire at this point. And then, like you said, going out and starting with the quarterback, getting that right, and whether they would have taken Bryce Young at the number one pick or not, probably, because it was sort of known he was the consensus number one, which at this point, I mean, how much of that falls on him? How much of it falls on the Panthers? Whatever you want to say. But they got that right, and then they've surrounded him with some weapons here. I mean, Nico Collins has been a breakout wide receiver for them this season, and they've got a solid offensive line. They've got guys like your left tackle is one of the most important positions to figure out besides quarterback. And they got their guy. They got a lifer. They got a great guy there in Laramie Tunsil. So they have that locked up, that figured out, and that's a great place, a great foundation for a quarterback. You get stability with your head coach and starting with your offensive line, starting with Laramie Tunsil. So then when you can surround him with a nice rookie wide receiver, that's great, man. I mean, then do you build, and do you go out and sign somebody in free agency? You trade for somebody. Obviously, they didn't really do anything this trade deadline, but then again, they weren't expecting to be this good, most likely. So I think the Texans have a bright future for sure. Even right now, sitting at second in their division, they have to feel pretty good about that because they definitely felt. A lot of people definitely felt they were going to be in last in this season. Them and the Colts battling it out for last place. But they've been impressive and honestly one of the more fun teams to watch this season. Moving on then. The Ravens, they're actual Super Bowl contenders this year. And not a lot of people are talking about it because obviously people love to talk about the Chiefs and Mahomes. Obviously, when you throw Taylor Swift in, people get lost in there. 49ers, of course, Kyle Shanahan's still in the chase for his first ring. Brock Purdy, all of that. They got so many stars there, you can't keep track. My Eagles, people like to talk about them a lot. The Cowboys get talked about more than the Ravens. And at this point, that probably should not be, because the Ravens they might be the best team in the AFC. I still think the Chiefs are at this point, but Ravens definitely close second, and they impressed by blowing out a Seahawks team 37-3 yesterday. Just absolute dominance. I mean, they took Lamar Jackson out at the end of the game because they had no need for him to be in there, possibility of getting hurt. OBJ caught his first TD pass as a Raven, and his first touchdown reception since that one in the Super Bowl for the Rams like 2 years ago. So it's good to see him back in the end zone again. And look what happens when you surround Lamar Jackson with viable weapons on offense. Who would have thought good things would happen? It's about time. So I'm very impressed by the Ravens this year, and I think there's a good chance we will see them in the AFC Championship game. Whether that is the number 1 seed or even further down, I think there's a great chance we see them in the AFC Championship game.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, you kind of took the words out of my mouth right there at the end where you were saying about putting weapons around Lamar. This is what we've been asking for I don't know how long now. Ever since Lamar entered the league, and everybody wanted to say he was a running back and that's all he was ever good at, blah blah blah. Well, guess what? He never had weapons to actually throw to, so he moved to another elite aspect of his game, which was running. Everybody knew that when he entered the league, he was a speedy quarterback. Speedy quarterback who can still throw out of the pocket, but at the same time, he's going to use his legs when he absolutely has to, and that's pretty much the start of his Ravens career. And then when they were in that contract dispute, he's like, dude, just put weapons around me. That's all I've been asking for. And guess what? They actually made the correct decision. They paid him, and then they brought in some good weapons. And this defense, they do what they need to do. The offense does what they need to do. And they're right where they want to be. I think they're going to give the Chiefs a run for their money. And who knows? Maybe they'll pull it off. But yeah. So I mean, it's definitely capable, man. This team is good. This team impresses week after week.
Definitely. I saw a stat or heard a stat that they've given up the least amount of points per game by a team so far this season since like the 2000 Ravens, and that was like the Ray Lewis Ravens. Like, yes, yeah, that was good. I'd say so. That was their Super Bowl year, I believe. So,
yeah.
So I think this Ravens team is destined to, like I said, make an AFC Championship game, because if you look up and down the AFC, I don't think there's one team, maybe the Chiefs, that I would take over the Ravens at this point. I mean, I'm not taking the Jaguars or, well, not the Steelers, not the Jets, not the Dolphins, not the Bills, not the Bengals. I'm not taking any of them over the Ravens at this point. So give me Baltimore. I think they are getting slightly disrespected this year. It's time to put some respect on the Ravens' name, and I'm pretty sure that we'll see him in the AFC Championship game. Lamar Jackson could get his second MVP this year, too. So, I mean, he's been balling out. Another guy who's been balling out, my guy, Jalen Hurts. We'll end on a quick note here for my Eagles. 28-3 win. 28-23. Sorry, we didn't beat the Cowboys that badly. 28-23 win over Dallas on Sunday. Obviously, feels great to say that. Let me get that off my chest. Love beating the Cowboys. I'm sure you're the same way. Anytime. Not that you've had a lot of success beating the Cowboys recently.
All right, Matt. All right. Come on, we're talking about the Eagles here. Keep it going.
Sorry. But it feels great to beat the Cowboys, even though end of the game, I don't know if you got to see the ending of that game. A lot closer than I wanted it to be, that's for sure. Dak had a chance to win it at the end. Took a bad sack, which set him back a little bit, and then throws a not deep ball, but, semi, like 20 yards down the field to CeeDee Lamb, and he ends up at the 4-yard line. He catches it at the 4. I mean, luckily there's 3 Eagles defenders there to tackle him, and I think he fumbled, which didn't matter anyway. He was down, whatever. But impressive win is all I got to say. And at this point, the Eagles look like the best team in the NFC, which, as much as we want to say, and it's been a theme on this podcast, the Eagles playing with their food. They mess around a little bit, which maybe has been the case this season, but when you compare them to the other top teams in the NFC, like the 49ers, well, at least they haven't lost all those games they've been messing around with. Like the Jets, they did lose that one, obviously, but they're the only team with 1 loss so far this season. So whether they're making the games close or not, I guess, but they've still been the most impressive team, I think, the most dominant team at this point. But I could just have my Eagles glasses on, though. So, not that a Giants glasses view is much better, I don't think, but let's hear what you got.
So, I thought, I mean, you said it there at the end. Why the hell are they making this close? Come on. Listen, I understand it's been working in their favor. And maybe it's mixed in with a little bit of luck, I'm not going to give full credit to them. But, I think this team is more than capable of going in every single week and absolutely taking care of business from the first snap of the game to the last. There is no reason to be messing around a little bit, trying to get cute. No, just take care of business because everybody knows that the Eagles can do it. That's the way I look at it. For your sake, I hope they don't, and I hope that it continues and they do their thing. But it might run out sooner or later. You just never know later on down the season. But no, I mean, I think it's also the occurring theme. I mean, everybody knew that this Eagles team was going to be good. They were in the Super Bowl last year, and they were going to start off hot again. I think that's exactly what happened. Like I said, I think my only worry is, if it's even a worry at this point, I think they just need to take care of business. That's just the way. I mean, who knows? Maybe that'll be their like motto or their MO for 2023, 2024 is to make games close and make their fans kind of sweat a little bit. Maybe that's what they want to do. I don't know, but it's working. So just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I will say you said about fan sweat. They had to make up because on 4th and 1s, a lot of time teams are sweating. But honestly, 4th and 2 even anymore. They did the tush push on the 4th and 2, and I was like, I don't know about this one, and they got it, no problem. So the Eagles, they gotta make us our fans sweat a little bit somehow, and Jalen Hurts, MVP candidate. I'm not sure he'll win this year because his stats aren't quite there compared to some of the other quarterbacks. Especially with the turnovers. But if he can get those down a little bit, case could be made. And that's another reason why some teams have been hanging around, some late turnovers by the Eagles, making the games a little closer than they need to be. But I'm not going to complain because we're winning. So I got to take what I can get because I'd rather be in my situation than, well, literally any other team in the league because we have the most wins and the least amount of losses so far. So yeah, as an Eagles fan, I'm pretty happy right now, but I digress. Don't want to flex too hard on your poverty Giants.
It's all right. It's all right. I mean, hey, listen, I'm also a Yankee fan, so I will bring up the same thing that I bring up when I don't feel like arguing, and that's rings. So I'm going to leave that.
Fair enough. One thing we can unite on is beating Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, though.
There you go. Nick Foles and Eli Manning. Every other team can thank them too for Tom Brady not having 3 more rings. So there you go.
Exactly. I think that's gonna do it for episode 11, I believe now. So thank you, Kyle, for hopping on, talking a little NFL. We appreciate it.
Anytime.
And that's gonna do it for this episode. Make sure you like, subscribe, review, all of that fun stuff, and we'll see you again next week. Later.